All right, let's move things along here and talk about minimum wage. Minimum wage of $20, perhaps. Our next guest made some waves earlier in the last week, on the subject of $20 minimum wage. Louis Audet is chairman of the board of Cogeco. Louis, thank you so much. Monsieur Audet, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Good morning, Mr. Makos, and thank you for the opportunity.
Louis, listen, just because it's in the headlines here, and we have a statement that just came out from the CEO of Air Canada, and he says he's apologizing. He's pledging today to improve his French, an official language of Canada, the common language of Quebec. So an apology, and he's going to learn French. Just because it's in the headlines here, Louis, do you have any thoughts on the Air Canada CEO and what you heard yesterday?
I think he's making the right move this morning, and I congratulate him on doing so.
All right, Louis. Thanks for your take on that. Okay, let's get to the actual topic at hand here. $20 minimum wage. Obviously, when you say something like that, you're going to get people's attention. You got our attention.
Yes.
So why did you think it was important to make that statement, throw that out there, and how do we get to $20 minimum wage?
Okay, so you don't get to it in one fell swoop. You may have to go through three yearly successive moves, and you have to be careful how you do it, because you don't want all the salary structures going up, because that would be a problem, and you want it to be competitively neutral, so that small business owners are not confronted with some competitors not doing it and they doing it. So it requires, and you need interprovincial coordination so that people don't flock in the neighboring province. So there's a number of precautions that have to be taken. Now, when you ask me, where does this come from? This comes from my realization that the decrease in salaries in the U.S. from 2000 to 2017 for non-university graduates was between 6.4 and 9.4%. And that was the root cause many years ago of the assault on Capitol Hill. And you have similar protest movements with the Gilets jaunes in France, and you have the Brexit vote, and the problems are just only now starting to come out. So my thinking was, how do you avoid that? How do you keep social harmony so that democracy can continue to flourish and be fair to everyone? And looking at salaries paid in Quebec, in particular in Quebec, but this applies to more or less any country. We have about 830,000 people earning less than $15 an hour. So that's about 25,000 per year. And the so-called minimum decent living level is about 24 to 32,000, depending on where you live and how many people are in the household. So that was behind my thinking. But I certainly have not said that I have all the answers, that's for sure.
Louis Audet is chairman of the board at Cogeco. He joins us now. And Louis, what you just said there, I think it speaks volumes. And that's why I'm so happy you're on this program this morning, because it seems to me this is not just about making sure people can pay the bills. This is about protecting democracy for you.
Effectively, that's what it is. That's how my thinking has evolved on an issue that, quite frankly, I hadn't paid that much attention to until this point in time.
What's the reaction you've been getting, Monsieur Audet, on this from your fellow business leaders?
Well, it's very interesting. When I walk on the street, people stop me to thank me, or I get notes in the mail. But people who are economists strongly disagree with me. But I was relying a lot on work that was performed by this year's Nobel Prize laureate, David Card, who was a economics professor at the University of California at Berkeley, who was a native of Guelph, Ontario, by the way. And his empirical studies show that when you raise the minimum wage, you do not lose jobs and you do not upset the economy. But of course, it has to be done in a smart manner. So I was relying on his expertise He is a Nobel Prize laureate this year, as a matter of fact.
Of course, we've had the labor minister on this show in the past, and he's spoken about your suggestion this week. Any discussions with Quebec's labor minister on what the government's thinking on minimum wage?
Honestly, no. I'm not a politician. I have no ambitions to be one. All I did is I reacted to an invitation. The Canadian Club invited me, and they said, "Would you come and speak to us?" I said, "Yes." "What do you want me to speak about?" They said, "Whatever you want." So I put my things together and concluded that these were the subjects that I wanted to discuss. Mm-hmm. So no, I have not had conversations with them. I understand Minister Boulet's position, and it's a very wise one. You don't want to administer an electroshock to the economy. You have to do it smartly. But I think we can do both. I think we can be more fair and not be harmful to small business owners.
Now, what about the boardroom at Cogeco? Has this topic come up, and have you thought on wages internally at the company? Does this make you think?
Yes, well, that's an excellent question. We still have corners of our operations where we have work to do. On the other hand, as I explained, this is not something we can start doing unilaterally, because then we would manage with respect to our competitors. So it's a movement that only a government can initiate. Individuals cannot, or individual companies cannot initiate that.
And I got to ask you, one other thing that came out of your discussion
Go ahead.
is on the inheritance of business owners when they pass down their company to other family members, right?
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a high tax rate. You're sort of saying, hey, we shouldn't have this high tax rate. Tell us your thoughts on that, because of course when you're advocating for minimum wage, but at the same time maybe also a tax initiative that would benefit wealthy people as well. There's got to be some questions there.
Yes, no, that's okay. I think that's a very fair and appropriate question in the circumstances. So what we have been preoccupied with is that in our country, as soon as a company owner dies, his children have to pay up 27% of the value of the company they're inheriting. And what that does is that it forces families to sell or wind down or disappear. So that's a problem. So we set about and we sponsored an independent study to see what other countries do. And what we found was that Sweden, Norway, Austria, Switzerland, and the Netherlands have no such tax. Others like New Zealand, Australia, Portugal, the Czech Republic, Italy have some very small tax. And others like Germany, Denmark, France, and the UK also have smaller taxes. So what this means is that these countries have recognized that if they want to keep their businesses alive, they have to trust family ownership of businesses. And so that's the root of my comment. Now, I'm not saying let's not pay tax. I say if the children ever decide to sell the business, then they should pay tax. So it's not about not paying tax. It's about the time at which you pay it. Imagine your dad passes away and someone looks at you and says, okay, I need 27% of the value in cash now.
Mm-hmm. And of course, that we always get up in arms when a Quebec company is bought out by a foreign company, right?
Yes. Well, it's not so. This is about. Think about Germany. Germany built its export capability on the Mittelstand. The Mittelstand is actually a network of many family companies who have kept the passion for the product and have developed it through research and development, and they feed into the equipment manufacturing and car manufacturing industries and small appliance industries, and they're very successful. Why? Because they have preserved German ownership.
We got to leave it there, Monsieur Audet. I want to thank you for coming on the program, and I want to thank you for pushing the discussion forward on minimum wage. It, what's come out of your comments has been really, really enlightening. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Makos. Have a great day.
That is Louis Audet, chairman of the board at Cogeco.